MySQL supports a complete set of date and time types. These include date, time, a standalone year type, a combined date-time type, and a timestamp type that's automatically updated when a row is created or updated. It's worth noting that two-digit year support is deprecated as of MySQL 5.6.6. It still works according to these rules, but the documentation warns that this functionality will be removed in a future release. Keep in mind that two-digit years are never a good idea, and if you're using them today, you'll be well served by updating your systems to use four-digit years. MySQL stores dates and times in standard SQL format. Standard SQL format for dates and times is designed for convenient sorting and searching. Different countries and locales have different localized formats for dates and times, some with the year to the left, some with the year to the right, some in odd mixed-up orders like the month-day-year format common in the US. Standard SQL format has the most significant parts to the left and the least significant parts to the right. This makes sorting and searching much easier, so you may even find it useful in other contexts like spreadsheets and file names. MySQL has comprehensive time zone support that's based on the extensive time zone database maintained by the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. The IANA time zone database is a standard set of international time zone rules, names, and locations. If you're using a Mac or a Unix-based MySQL installation, you have this database installed. If you're using Windows, it's probably not installed by default. Please see the movie Installing the Time Zone Database on Windows in Chapter 1. So let's take a look at a simple use for a timestamp, and we'll use the Scratch database here. And I'll start by creating a table. I'll always start with a drop table if exists, because we'll be doing this over and over. And I'll create the table. And it's just going to have a few columns in it. And we'll insert a few rows into it. And then we'll put in a describe so we can see what it looks like. And a show create table so we can see what the defaults are. And a select from. We'll go ahead and run it. I am missing parentheses there, aren't I? There we go. So there's our create table. We have this column called stamp, which is of the timestamp type. And the timestamp type, of course, is designed to automatically create a timestamp on every insert and update. And so you'll notice here in the describe, this is our describe here, describe test, that it says default is current timestamp and on update is current timestamp. Current timestamp is a constant that expands to the current date and time. And so that's the way that that's actually implemented. And if we look here in our show create table, we see not null default current timestamp on update current timestamp. And there is our rows. And of course, they all have the same timestamp because this entire query took 103 milliseconds. Now, if I come back in here, and I'm just going to replace all of this for now with an update. We'll leave the select there at the bottom. And I'm just going to say update test set note equals, and we'll give it another artist, where ID equals 2, semicolon. And so that'll just replace this second one here. Instead of Henri Matisse, it will say Jackson Pollock, and it will give us a new timestamp there. And so when I press go, you notice that Jackson Pollock here now has a different time. This says 35:59 rather than 33:39. And I didn't update that column. That happened automatically because of the timestamp type. So the timestamp type is very handy. It's very common. It's a quick and easy way to apply a timestamp of a time and date to a row of data. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this table now. And I want to explain a little bit about time zone support. MySQL uses a set of variables to control some system behaviors, including time zone support. So if we type in here, show variables, and that's again a MySQL specific statement that will show the MySQL variables table, and I can even use like with it. I can say like and percent in single quotes, percent time zone like this, And if I say select now, like that with parentheses, and press go, we see that our time zone is set to UTC. System time zone is MST on this system, and of course it'll be different on every system depending on how your system time zone is set. So yours probably will not say MST. It's possible if you're in the Mountain Standard Time Zone and it doesn't have one of its aliases or equivalents, but it'll say something, and then time zone itself is set to UTC, and that's actually done in the SID code, in its initialization code. And so this now variable is showing us the current timestamp, which is in UTC. So it's 03 o'clock in the morning on March 12th, 2014 in the UTC time zone. Now, if your time zone variable does not say UTC, that probably means you don't have time zone support installed in your system, and there's a movie in Chapter 1 that'll show you how to install it. Now, I can change my local time zone by setting the time zone variable, and this is the sort of thing that you would do in an application if you wanted to set it to UTC or to some local time zone. You can say set time zone with the underscore like that equals and give it a time zone. So if I wanted to make this US Eastern, and then I'll just go ahead and copy and paste these show variables and select now like that. And when I say go, now we have the first two, which is in UTC, and then after that I set the time zone to Eastern, and now shows the time zone in the Eastern time zone, which of course is several hours earlier, looks like 4 hours earlier than UTC. So it's the day before, and it's 2339 instead of 0339. So the time and date types in MySQL have good support for storing and displaying time and date information, including comprehensive support for time zones based on the extensive IANA time zone database.